Hey guys, I got back from my second expedition last night, and as promised, I'm going to make a video today to show you what I picked up. But before that, I want to do a little quick follow-up on the last video. First off, thank you for all the feedback and info. It's very helpful to identify what some of those items were and what they're used for. Also wanted to let you know that all of these tubes test quite good, and I made a little mistake with one of them. I was talking about this Ever-Ready FR247. I thought it was some type of rectifier using an early battery eliminator. No, this is a Type 47 output tube. They just use this crazy plate with their logo stamped into it. Alright, so yesterday was an interesting trip for two reasons, if nothing else. One, about a third of the way there, I realized I forgot to bring any money, and we had to backtrack. I'm just glad it was a third of the way there, not all the way there, because that would have been a nightmare. It was about a 2-hour drive each way. The second reason is that we had some crazy weather. It was in the 50s, but we still had quite a bit of snow on the ground. And the further north we went, the more snow there was, and it was also raining. So the combination of those three factors made some of the thickest fog I've ever encountered. So most of the time I could hardly even see the road I was driving on. Alright, so what did I go get? You'll be shocked to find that it's more TVs. So I'm going to start out with this guy. I don't know the model number yet. It's a Philco Teletone portable, late 50s to be sure. I'm not sure about the exact year. Now it's beat up, it's grungy. He even had some nicer sets than this that I passed on, but I liked it for a few reasons. One, it's I think one of Philco's earliest portables. Two, although it's a bit dirty, it's all there. Antennas, knobs, and everything. Three, it's got UHF, which I thought was an interesting option to have in a portable. And finally, it uses exactly the same knobs as Predictas. So I'm thinking this is probably from around the same time, 58, 59, as the Predictas. I think there might be a model number on the back. I haven't had a chance to take a good look at the back yet. So let's see. Well, there's an area for the model number, but I don't see anything printed. It might have faded away, or maybe it was just never there to begin with. Well, that'll require a little bit of research. Next up is a Stromberg-Carlson. It's a company I'd heard of before, and I'd seen a few photos of their sets online, but never saw one in person before. I was surprised to learn that they are from, or were from, Minneapolis, Minnesota, so I would have thought they'd be a little more common in the Midwest, but that was the first one I've come across. So they made a line of these rather nifty portable sets. Some were all metal, I think. This one has some type of like faux alligator skin coating on it. It's in pretty good condition. A few nicks here and there, but not too bad. Got all the knobs, got retractable antennas. Don't know the exact year. I'm guessing late 50s, just like the Philco. It's got a nifty metal back. The only bad thing I've seen so far is that somebody butchered it. Where the AC cord goes. I imagine the original cord wore out, and maybe somebody chewed this up so the new cord would fit in there. So there's their address. It's a model 1040, I guess. I'll have to look that up to find out what it's all about. Next up we have another portable. If you're sensing a theme here, well, that's because I took my little VW Golf and I didn't want to make more than one trip, so I chose relatively small sets from the seller's collection. I think he had about 20 sets in all he was selling, but I just came home with 6, and they just fit perfectly in my car. Couldn't have taken one more set if I wanted to. Alright, so this, I believe, is a Teletone TV208. Which is very distinctive looking because it's got that cool porthole type display that Previously I'd only seen in Zenith and Stromberg-Carlson. I think this is the only 7-inch porthole type set that was made. And the nice thing about this is because the cover was kept on intact all these years, it preserved the insides pretty well. It's got all the original knobs. Seem to be in pretty good shape. The nice brass cover plate is in fine condition too. Sold same old 7JP4 electrostatic CRT that's used in pretty much all the 7-inch sets I've got, all the Motorola's and Admirals and so on. It's got probably cowhide for the exterior. A couple nicks here and there, but not too bad. However, there are a couple glaring problems with this set. One is the gaping hole on top. I found out later from some photos online and looking at the Sam's service info, that's where the antenna would have gone. It kind of sat in here like a little plastic cup. Then there were two retractable antennas that looked like they used spring steel, just like a tape measure. You could pull them out and they'd retract. So you never know. Maybe somebody somewhere out there has one of these to spare, or maybe an old junker set that I could get one out of. Don't know. But in the meantime, anything I can put in there, I'll take a cap from a can of spray paint or something just to plug up the hole. And the other problem is the back. The original back's gone. I found a photo online, so at least I know what they look like. I think I could probably take some masonite and fabricate a new one. What I don't like about this one, and just being a piece of plywood, is no ventilation, and of course nowhere to hook anything up. There should be a power cord plugging in back here, and I think there are some controls for focus and centering and so on. Just in case any of you might have one of these rattling around in a junk box, this is basically what they look like. Some sort of cup with two tabs sticking out, and you can pull these out to extend the antennas. Next up, let's take a look underneath this towel that I've been resting all the portable sets on. This is a Hoffman Easy Vision 10-inch set, probably from about 48. Hoffman was known for using a green tinted glass. I've heard various stories, but the most plausible sounds like they got a government surplus cheap and wanted to use it up. So they came up with this term Easy Vision, which some people affectionately redubbed as Queasy Vision because everybody looked kind of a sickly green color on the sets. I actually have another one of these I got from a fellow collector in Kalamazoo, Michigan a few months back. I just never did a video on it. I think it's the identical model, only it's in a mahogany cabinet, whereas this is a blonde or limed oak type finish. A few things I don't like about this set. Bezel's in crummy shape, however, I think it's brass, so that might polish up really nice, hopefully. Likewise, the control panel's in rough shape, but if I polish that, I'll lose all the labels and stenciling. And finally, I don't know what's going on with this channel knob. My other Hoffman's kind of messed up too, but not this bad. I know for sure this isn't the right knob. I've seen these before. These are from some other set. There should be some type of fine-tuning thing here, and then an outer channel knob. And this channel number plate, I'm not even sure if it's right for this set, but it certainly shouldn't just be spinning around like that. So that'll be a fun challenge to try to deal with that. I'll have to ask around online, see if I can find some reference photos. Who knows, maybe I've got something compatible. I don't know. Alright, now, one thing I do like about this set, other than the blonde finish, which is in pretty good shape, is the back. My other set's missing the back, but this one is in really, really fine condition. Metal back, and it's got all the original labels, artwork on it. So there's the Hoffman plaque. I've heard these sets perform quite well, very well engineered, and from the brief look I've taken at the schematic, I have to agree. They're kind of right up there with like the RCA 630TS. Very robust design. Here's a better look at the main label. It's a Model 600 chassis 154, Hoffman, Los Angeles, California. That's why you don't see many in the Midwest or East Coast, because these were mostly sold on the West Coast. Next up is a set I've been looking for a while now, which is an RCA 721 TS. I've only seen a couple for sale in my area over the years, and they were either in crummy condition or the seller was asking too much, or both. But now I've finally got one. It has some minor condition issues, but hopefully I can resolve those without too much pain. The finish I think is original, although it looks awfully shiny, but that might just be because it's got a coat of wax or oil on it. A few dings here and there, but nothing too bad. Safety glass is intact. I noticed some funkiness under it. I think that might just be some fine cracks and maybe a little bit of dirt in the veneer. Hopefully that'll clean out. So what this is a 10-inch set from 1947. I think it's one of like maybe the fourth or fifth model that RCA ever introduced. It was sort of a lower cost, smaller alternative to the giant 630 TS. So the numbers briefly. The 7 means it's from 1947, the TS means it's a tabletop set, and the 21 means there's 21 tubes. So the 630 TS was from 1946 and had 30 tubes in it, so this has 9 less tubes than that set. And if you look at the schematic, a little bit simpler design. It doesn't have DC restoration, maybe one less IF stage, so it took a few compromises in the design, but still a nice set. So one problem I didn't realize until I was about to pack it in my car is that there's no channel plate here. There should be a brass plate here with the channel numbers on it. So that could take some time and cost some money to replace. I think I've only ever seen one, maybe two show up on eBay, and they sold for quite a bit. I do have a plastic one that maybe will fit. I'm not sure, but won't look quite as good. Also, I don't think the plastic one has channel 1, and I think this set does, but don't hold me to that. I gotta look up the service info to know for sure. Now, the other problem with the set is it's missing the back. However, Amptech Systems in Ohio does make a reproduction, and I'm working out an order with them for a back for my 630 TS, or both of them actually, and a custom back for my Stromberg-Carlson TV12, so I think maybe I can just tack a back for this one onto the order. Other problem with this set is it's really, really, really heavy. In spite of it looking a bit smaller than the 630 TS and having less tubes, it's just about as heavy. I can barely lift this on my own. It's got to be 90 plus pounds, I'm thinking. And finally, I saved the best for last. If it hadn't been for this set, in spite of how nice those other sets may be, I don't think I would have gone out there. This is one of the most desirable collectible antique TVs there is, the RCA 621 TS. This is the sister set to the 630 TS, both introduced in 1946, but they didn't make very many of these. They made several 100,000 of the 630s, but they only made about 21,000 of these. I've heard a few stories about how that came about. I've heard some say that this is a pre-war design, and the cabinet may very well be, but the electronics inside are definitely post-war because it uses tubes that just didn't exist pre-war. But yeah, that's definitely a pre-war looking Art Deco cabinet design. Very, very cool. It's only a 7-inch set though, and it does not use the 7JP4. It's actually a magnetic deflection set, not electrostatic deflection. It uses a 7DP4, I believe, and I don't know if any other set ever did. So I hope this picture tube has some life left, because the replacement could be a little tricky to find. Now, as far as the condition, it's in quite good condition as these sets go. The only real condition issue I see is along the bottom. A little bit of plywood separation, a little glue and clamp, that'll take care of that, no problem. And some finish loss. But I don't see any reason to refinish this set. It's too valuable. It's just, I definitely don't want to do it. The decals would get lost, and they're in pretty decent condition as is. So a little touch up of black lacquer along the bottom, glue that up. Maybe a little brown touch up here and there. Should be fine. Top's in really good condition. I believe the way these come apart for servicing is that these little things slide over. I've never seen how they slide before, but I've seen plenty of other, well, not plenty, I've seen a few of these for sale over the years, and often I just see these two screws exposed, and I was wondering how that came about. But now, as you can see, this little brass shim comes off pretty easily. So there was a time when it was thought not many of these existed, and there's even a website where there's a database of serial numbers of surviving 621s. However, I think with the advent of the internet and eBay and online forums, a lot more of these have been popping up. So it's pretty common to see one of these for sale on any given month on eBay. Doesn't mean there's a whole lot of them out there. I don't mean that there's like 100 of them on sale on eBay. I mean, over the course of a year, I've seen maybe 8, 10, 12 for sale. I think there's a nice blonde one on eBay right now. So the value has dropped a bit because they don't seem to be quite as scarce as they used to, but still a quite valuable, very nice to have set. Now, as for the rest of it, it does have the back, which is good, but again, Amtech Systems does make reproductions if need be. Missing a few screws, so I better secure that. But now here's the immediate problem I saw with this. It's got a brightener on the CRT. So I was saying I hope the CRT has some life left. Well, this is a pretty good indication that it doesn't have much life left. But I definitely want to take this off, test it with a CR70 and see what kind of readings it might have. You never know. I think some people might put these brighteners on prematurely, and maybe the set had some other issues, or maybe a picture tube could have been rejuvenated rather than jacking up the filament juice, because that's what these do. Typically the filament takes 6.3 volts AC. These jack it up to maybe 8 or 9, which will just quickly accelerate the death of the CRT. Model W9 universal brightener. It's got a switch on it. Maybe that's high-low. So who knows? What really, really kills me is that 2 or 3 years ago, somebody found a stash of 7-inch picture tubes that they were, I don't remember exactly if they had to do anything to them or what the deal was, but regardless, they would work in these sets, and he had about a dozen. He was trying to sell them for $75 a pop, and he was having trouble finding any takers. Well, now I would gladly pay $75 for a new old stock picture tube for this. I've also seen a couple pop up on eBay. One, I think there have been a couple used 7DP4s in the past year. And one that wasn't made for this set, it was actually made for the TV cameras, for the viewfinder. And that's an aluminized version of this picture tube. And one of those sold recently for, I think, only like $50 or so. And I think it might need a slight bit of circuit tinkering to make it work. But it's aluminized, so it's a much brighter picture tube than the non-aluminized version. I'd love to get one of those too. Here's a serial number. It's 14535. I have not looked inside of any of these sets. Don't know what the condition is. I haven't tested the picture tubes, and I'm not going to do all that right now. It's a bit overwhelming with the other 3 sets I got, like the Motorola that this is sitting on top of. But this picture tube I do want to test right now, because if it is bad, I might as well start the hunt now and put out the word that I'm looking for one. The rest of the sets, well, as you can imagine, this is a bit overwhelming. I'm swamped. I have no room. So one thing I'm going to have to do is, well, one, I'm going to sell and give away some stuff. I'm already working out a deal to sell one of my TVs to a guy locally. I do not want to ship anything other than very small items. I'm not going to ship any TVs. But maybe I'll do an upcoming video and talk about some of the stuff that I do want to unload. Definitely some test equipment that I could spare. But also, I think I'm going to have to go either rent a second storage locker at the facility I use or get one larger one and move a bunch of sets over there. I just carefully removed the back and that evil brightener. I can now see that that switch on top is for series and parallel operation mode. That would have made a difference if the set had the filaments wired in series versus parallel like this set has. Alright, now the set's pretty cramped compared to the 630 TS, so it's a little hard to see, but it should look familiar from watching my 630 videos because it's got that same box for the high wattage resistor dividers, same high voltage cage. Get a nice clear shot of the tube shard up there. So there's the single 5U4 rectifier sticking up there. Looks pretty clean inside, and I can see some of the tubes say RCA Victor on them. And I can also see there's a little piece of paper in here. Cool. Just like the original owner's info. Oh, so I see. So I got this set up in Milwaukee, and this must have been the original dealer that sold it, and it spent its whole life up in Milwaukee. Till now, that is. So it's a little owner's troubleshooting chart to try these things before calling the seller for servicing. Pretty much do the same thing today, like with like Comcast cable or your computer. You know, you try turning it off and back on, and so on, before you bother calling us. All right, so time to just test the tube. Oh, by the way, I misspoke a moment earlier. I said that 21,000 of these were made. It's 17,000. I was just checking out the early television museum website. Okay, here we go. First up, set the filament, and don't see anything coming out of that CRT, but it's also incredibly filthy. That's not a good sign. I don't see anything. Might be completely burned out. So I can check with an ohmmeter for resistance between the two filament pins. And I can try touching up the pins with a little bit of solder too. But maybe it is glowing and I just can't see it, so I'll just keep going with the tests. No shorts, no shorts. Cut off and no emissions. Yeah, grab an ohmmeter and check that filament. Yep, the filament's completely burned out. This is why I hate brighteners. It may give you a brighter picture for a short while, but it will burn out the filament and then you've got nothing. I just checked the 10 BP4 picture tube in the RCA 721 TS, and wouldn't you know, it's bad too. Filament's also open. So I then turned my attention to the Hoffman, and this does have filament continuity, but the emissions were 0, and I was getting ready to write it off as well, but I thought I'd better let it sit for a while, and sure enough, after about 15 minutes, the emissions did creep into the green, and I do have decent cutoff control. So, at least I got 1 out of 3. So if I ever want to make that 621 work again, I have to find one of these. Either a 7DP4 like it used originally, the Illumini 7TP4 that was used in camera viewfinders, or the Air Force GL4592. here's what that looks like, as I found on the Early Television Museum website. So if any of you can help me out, please let me know. And that is all for now.